Well, hi, church. Pastor John here. I just wanted to send just kind of an impromptu training video for all of our Sunday school leaders. I know it's very difficult to get everybody together, and this is a great time of year. 2015 has just begun, and so it's a great time for you to get your class together. I mean, just call everybody, not just the leaders, but everybody on the roll. Say, hey, we're going to have a class discussion, get together at so-and-so's house at this time. We may have some light snacks, but the purpose is not fellowship. The purpose is to talk about what our class is about, how we're going to accomplish what God has for us in 2015 to really do the work of ministry. You've got to get together. You've got to talk about that with your class so that you can do it. Realize that it's going to be everybody coming together to make this happen. But I do want to say thank you for all that you do as a Sunday school leader. You are the backbone of ministry at the church. Many times people think of a church as the pastor. They think of it as a building or the music or something else, but it's really not. The church is the people, and it's the people's ministry that makes up the church, and that is small group ministry. It's our Sunday school ministry. And so I do want to say thank you. Save this email. I've written much of this down in an email, but I know that just reading through it might not be as effective for you, so I've made this video as well. But save these somewhere so you can print it out and come back to it later, maybe refer to it in the meeting that you're going to have with your class, those kind of things. But we need to think about this, we need to be constantly adding people to our roles. This is how it works. You add somebody to your role, and then every week the class is constantly connecting with the people on that role. And that's how we assimilate people into our church. So somebody doesn't have to attend your class. They don't have to attend the church. Just in some way, maybe you have an event and you get their information and you say, hey, can my class pray for you? We'll add you to our prayer list or to our class list. And then they're on the roll. And then every week somebody's going to be contacting them. But you know how that happens? You have to intentionally contact everyone on your roll every week, and not just contact, but really connect with them. So that ask yourself this question now: who has missed the last 1 to 2 weeks? Somebody from your class, you need to make sure that they are contacted and really connected with ASAP, as soon as possible. That may be half of your role. Well, somebody needs to contact them as soon as possible and report that back somehow. Maybe you could say, here's a list of the people who've missed. We're going to have this class meeting. At this meeting, these are the people assigned to these specific people. You need to report back at that meeting. Something like that to bring accountability. But speaking of fellowships, I want to tell you that you always need to have a fellowship on the calendar. And so that means that at whatever fellowship you're at, you need to know what the next one is so you can be promoting that. You know, as people are leaving, don't forget in 4 weeks we're going to be at so-and-so's house, or we're going to go bowling, or we're going to go play putt-putt, or we're going to go serve at a soup kitchen, or we're going to go to the park and hand out water bottles to people. Whatever it is that you do as a class, you need to know what the next one is every time you get together. So every Sunday you're talking about it. And you need to personally invite every person on your roll every time to every event that you have. And never give up. That may mean you go 12 weeks inviting somebody before they actually come to something. That's part of the work of ministry. It doesn't take really all that long. It's not really that big of a commitment. If you just set aside maybe a half hour or an hour a week, you could do it probably all by yourself. But we have an entire class of people, and so we need to all be working together to do these things. It's just that the leaders of the class, particularly the teacher, the outreach leader, the in-reach leader, and what other positions you have, if you have a director or what other positions your class has based on need, you all need to make sure that this is happening. So you always need to know what the next fellowship is, and that's what you need to be encouraging people to do. One thing that you can do as you contact everybody on the roll, and that's true, everybody on the roll should be connected with every single week. If they miss, somebody needs to connect with them. And this is the question you need to ask. Even if they were there the last Sunday, when you're talking to them that next week, when you connect with them and have a dialogue, that's not just sending an email and, oh, I hope they got that, or posting a Facebook message to a group or anything like that, but really having a dialogue with them. always ask this question: will you be there Sunday? That's an easy question. Will you be there Sunday? Will you be there Sunday? And if they say yes, have something ready, maybe a scripture passage or something. If you're going to be looking through a few verses in Nehemiah or something like that, you could say, well, this week, would you mind reading Nehemiah chapter 5, verses 1 to 3? Whenever I ask for people to read it out loud, I'm going to assign that to you. And why don't you go ahead and look up that passage maybe in a study Bible or something, and see what you can find out, and share anything interesting that you find with the class. Something that simple gives somebody a task to look forward to for Sunday. If you can give something like that to everyone in the class, then you'll have a higher rate of attendance. It will work. I've seen it work every single time. Something else that you can do is maybe not a scripture passage, but set someone aside to say, hey, let me encourage you to give your testimony this week. I want you to talk about how you came to know Christ. And maybe you've talked with them before, you know what that is. Or you know that somebody did something creative to try to encourage people to come to their class. Let them share that as a testimony to the rest of the class. That will encourage them. But get everyone involved and contact everyone during the week and set up what's going to happen on Sunday morning. Here's the thing. If we all we do is show up and we don't set up the class, then we're just going to kind of dwindle down, and just the really faithful people who already want to be there will be there. And we're not going to be doing ministry like we should. But if you set up each class to happen so that when it happens, there's not that many surprises. It's almost as though you'll be taking attendance the week leading up to Sunday, not just waiting to see who shows up, but you'll know who's going to be there and who's not going to be there beforehand, and attendance will just be a formality. That's really the ideal of what it should be. And can I tell you something? Every time I've seen a class take that approach, they've always been very successful in terms of reaching more people, but the closeness in that class has been greater than any other classes I've seen. I've seen classes grow to upwards of 110 people, and they were ministering and functioning. They got together. They were a close-knit group of people. And you would think a class that big, it would be hard for everyone to connect together, but they did, because all of the people in the class, they knew they were supposed to be doing something, and they worked together to make it happen. You can do it. You really can. And those things you don't have time for in a week, find someone to delegate those to. Have other tasks to do. We've talked about that before, but we need to do that every single week. Every week on Sunday morning, you need to set aside 5 to 10 minutes for reaching. You need to set aside 5 to 10 minutes for ministry, and then you need to use the balance of the time, about 45 minutes, to teach the lesson. And that even allows for about 10 minutes of social time, announcement time, that kind of a thing. But in your reaching time, that 5 to 10 minutes you set aside, you always need to ask the question, and the whole class come together, guests are welcome to participate, how can we reach new people? You need to brainstorm about that, think about that, and plan strategies and events in order to actually do that. If you're going to reach new people, it's going to be up to you. If you're going to reach out and be able to do what God has called us to do, to make disciples in all the earth, it's going to start where you live, where your class interacts with other people. And it's going to be the people of Crossroads, through the classes of Crossroads, reaching out to other people to see the world come to know Christ, starting right here in Corpus Christi. So you can ask for testimonies, like I've already mentioned. Somebody may come up with an idea, hey, let's make up flyers and have a party in my neighborhood, and we'll invite everybody in my neighborhood to that party. Maybe it's watching a sporting event or having a game night or something, and you make up a flyer about your Sunday school class and that you're having an event at your house, and you blanket your entire neighborhood. Or you specifically invite people to something like that. Or you go bowling and you invite people. Maybe you make up flyers about your class and you don't even go outside of the walls of the church. You just hang out from about 10:15 to 10:50 a.m. at the two main entrances of the church. And you have a flyer about your class, talking about the leaders and their contact information, why your class is great and what your class is currently studying. And you see the people who just show up for worship, and you hand them a flyer and say, hey, will you start coming to our class next week? And you do a little bit of recruiting, and maybe you take a rotation and you do that. All kinds of things like that. Your class can brainstorm those kind of things and then put them into practice to reach people, to get people into your class, to get new people onto the rolls of your class. Maybe your class goes out to a park and hands out water and tells people what you're doing here at the church in general, but also specifically in your class, inviting people to your Sunday school class. It's your class. So figure out how you can reach people and then make it happen. During your ministry time, you need to obviously take prayer requests and find out things that are going on in people's lives in your class. Organize meals for them because maybe they had a baby or there's a sickness or a death in the family, and you're going to help minister to them in some way, shape, or form. Or somebody, they had knee surgery and they can't mow their lawn, so you're going to show up and mow their lawn. And during that time, you can organize those kind of things. But also always ask this question. Always ask this question. Now, with outreach, you want to ask, how can we reach new people? And think about that. But you need to ask this question, who's not here? Now, this would be our ministry time. Who's not here? And find the people who aren't here and assign those people to people in the class. Who's not here? Oh, Beth isn't here. Well, you need to find someone. Okay, George, will you contact Beth this week and let her know what's going on? And so you can tell them about the upcoming fellowship, but then you need to follow up. So let me give you an example. If you say, well, Beth isn't here, George, you need to contact Beth, and that's on Sunday, January the 11th. Well, guess what? On January the 18th, George needs to report to the class what he found out. It wouldn't be a bad idea for you to mention that when you call George during the week to connect with him and say, hey, George, you going to be there Sunday? Yeah, I'm going to be there Sunday. Okay, great. Don't forget to contact Beth and let the class know what you find out. If he's already contacted her, he can tell you, okay, great, that's good to know. Well, we're going to be reading the scripture passage. Would you read this passage? Or why don't you share with the class what Beth said to you? See how that works? It's a simple staying in touch, staying connected. It's not a lengthy conversation. You have a 2 or 3 minute conversation with somebody, and you've made a connection that will make them feel just a little bit closer, a little bit more connected. How do people feel disconnected at a church? Well, it's not because a church didn't contact them. It's because a person didn't contact them. Which person? Someone in their Sunday school class. So let me encourage you that the most powerful word in the English language is relationship. And that's really what ministry is about, relationships. The book of 2 Corinthians tells us that we have been given, we, you and me, not just the Apostle Paul, not just professional clergy, we have been given the ministry of reconciliation. That means rebuilding relationships with people. People with people, but most importantly, people with God. The way in which we love God. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second commandment is just like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. It's connecting with God by connecting with people. And if we will just encourage people and love people, and not just teach a really great Bible lesson, that's a good thing. Not just spend a couple hours during the week preparing our Sunday school teaching time, though we've got to spend time and we've got to teach at least a halfway decent lesson. All the other things have to go into it. You have to set up your Sunday in order for your Sunday to be successful. If you just show up and say, well, I hope people will show up, or I don't know who's going to show up, then it's not going to be as powerful as it could be for the kingdom. And this is not to say, I hope in all of this that I've said, it's not to say that any one individual is responsible for this in their own class. Now, if no one else in your class will help you do this, you need to recruit someone from another class or who's not going to class and say, hey, I need help in my class. Will you come and help me? Because I've just got a lot of people who aren't going to get involved. They're just kind of apathetic. I need help as a leader in my class. Will you help me lead? Because I know there are some people not attending Sunday school classes who have the great potential to be leaders. Just no one's asked them yet. You seek them out. You ask them. You find them. And you make it happen. And you know what? Ministry is hard. It takes time. It takes a commitment. It takes an investment. I mean, growing a church, and not just numbers, but growing the people of a church, as well as reaching out to new people and seeing a church grow. It takes work, but this is the work that it takes. It's not just thinking about doing it. It's not just the way in which we teach, or it's not the kind of music we have, or it's not the how cool of a pastor we have, or all those things. At the end of the day, it comes down to the relationships we build with people. And as much as we want to be nice on Sunday morning, we want to greet people with a smile and a handshake and be kind to them during that welcome and greeting time, at church, if that's all we do, we're missing out. If that's all we do, that's not sufficient. We've got to be connecting with people throughout the week. We've got to be thinking towards activities and things that we can do to draw people in, to connect people in, to do all that we can to make disciples in all the earth, starting in Corpus Christi, but going all the way around the world. And that's how we will glorify God in everything, making disciples in all the earth. So I'm just excited as all get out about 2015. I just believe there's so much potential for us to reach the world. We are still seeing people be baptized. I'd like to see someone be baptized this month in order to keep our streak of averaging one person per month being baptized. But all those things happen when we're faithful and do what God's called us to do. And when you're doing ministry, there's joy in that. When you're affecting people's lives, there's joy in that. So let me just encourage you with that, and I hope to see you Sunday. God bless you.